His best friend ruined our relationship, so I made sure she'd regret it. Have you ever been dumped because your boyfriend's childhood best friend decided you were a walking red flag, only to have him call you days later sobbing and asking for another chance? I never imagined my love life would be dictated by a third party who wasn't even a relative, but that's exactly what happened. The way I handled it may have been petty, manipulative, and maybe a little extreme, but when you hear the whole saga, you might understand why. I'm Leah, a 25-year-old woman, and up until recently I was dating Nick, 26. Nick had never held down a relationship longer than 3 or 4 months. So when our 8-month milestone approached, I thought we were special. He said he'd never felt this connected before. He introduced me to his family. He met my sister. We were talking about taking a trip together in the fall. I thought we were building something. What I didn't fully appreciate at the time was how thoroughly entangled Nick's life was with that of his childhood friend Bella. To understand Nick, you have to understand Bella. They've lived next door to each other since they were 10 years old. Their parents barbecue together every summer. They went through elementary, high school, and even the same university program. They both wound up working at the same consulting firm. When I say they're inseparable, I'm not exaggerating. Bella is the person Nick calls when his car won't start, when he's deciding which shoes to buy, when his cat sneezes weirdly. It would almost be cute if it weren't for the fact that Bella's influence extends into his dating life in a way that's frankly unsettling. He admitted, about 4 months into our relationship, that every single woman he's dated in the past had to be Bella approved. If she didn't like them, the relationship ended. If she told him to break up, he did. I sat there across from him in our favorite cafe, latte in hand, and felt my stomach drop. "You're joking," I said, half laughing, trying to gauge whether he was serious. Nick's cheeks flushed. "I know it sounds weird, Lee," he said, using the nickname only he calls me, "but she knows me. She knows what's good for me. I should have walked away right then and there, but I didn't. I was already invested. I convinced myself Bella and I would get along, and that we'd all coexist as adults. My relationship with Bella started out cordial enough. We met at a barbecue in Nick's parents' backyard. She hugged me warmly, asked me about my work in publishing, and cracked jokes about Nick's inability to cook. But as the months rolled on, I noticed a pattern. When the three of us were together, Bella found ways to exclude me. She'd bring up inside jokes with Nick that left me sitting there smiling awkwardly. She'd plan spontaneous trips to the mall with him that just happened to fall during my lunch break at work. She'd make casual comments like, "Nick always forgets anniversaries, don't take it personally," or, "I know him better than anyone, Leah, he's always been like this." It was subtle, but the message was clear. She came first. I tried to befriend her anyway. I invited her to brunch, sent her funny memes. She'd respond politely but distantly. I told myself it would just take time. Then came the catalyst. 5 days ago, I woke up in my apartment with a searing stomachache and a fever. My roommate was halfway across the country visiting her parents. My family lives 3 hours away. I could barely keep down water. By midday, I was shivering under a blanket. I don't normally lean on boyfriends for caretaking. I'm stubbornly independent. But I swallowed my pride and called Nick. "Hey," I croaked when he answered. "I'm really sick. Like, can't stand up kind of sick. Could you maybe come over? I need some help." There was a pause. "I don't know," he said slowly. "I have plans with Bella. We're seeing that new superhero movie, and then grabbing lunch." I stared at my phone, incredulous. "You're joking, right? I have a stomach bug. You can catch the next showing." He hesitated. "She's been excited about this for weeks." Something in me snapped. Maybe it was the fever. Maybe it was 8 months of feeling like I was always second place. "You know what?" I said, my voice flat. "Go on your date with Bella. You two clearly belong together." And I hung up. I ignored the string of calls and texts that followed. I curled up on my couch, tears of anger streaming down my face. About an hour later, there was a knock at my door. Nick stood there, sheepish, holding a Tupperware of soup Bella's mother had apparently made. "I'm sorry," he said, eyes pleading. "I canceled. I'm here." My walls cracked a little. We spent the day together. He watched trashy TV with me, made sure I took my meds, and by the time he left that night, I felt physically better and emotionally placated. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. The next day, Nick disappeared. He didn't text good morning. He didn't respond to my memes. Hours passed. I called. It went to voicemail. By evening, anxiety gnawed at my insides. Had something happened? Finally, around midnight, my phone lit up with his name. I answered, relief flooding through me. "Nick, is everything okay?" His voice was cold, formal. "I think you should sit down," he said, sounding like someone reading from a script. "I've been thinking, and I don't think we should see each other anymore." At first, I laughed, thinking he was making some horrible joke, but he kept talking. He said it had been hard to reach this conclusion, but he'd realized my behavior was full of red flags. He said he felt manipulated, that I was trying to isolate him from people who mattered. He said he needed space and hung up. I sat in my kitchen at 12:10 a.m., phone clutched in my sweaty hand, feeling like someone had pulled the floor out from under me. No follow-up call came. No message. I tried calling back. straight to voicemail. I opened my messenger. All our chats were gone. He had blocked me on every platform. In 8 hours, my relationship went from caring for each other to non-existent. For the next 2 days, I existed in a fog. I went to work, smiled at coworkers, edited manuscripts, all while my brain screamed, "What red flags?" I replayed every conversation, every argument, every meal. I thought about the times I'd cooked him dinners because he always forgot to eat during busy weeks. The times I'd bought him shirts because his wardrobe consisted solely of faded band tees. Were these controlling? Had I overstepped? Had I smothered him? I was so wrapped up in self-blame that I temporarily forgot about Bella. It didn't even occur to me that she might be involved. Then late last night, my phone rang with an unknown number. I answered hesitantly. It was Nick. "Leah?" he said immediately, voice high and frantic. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Please let me explain. Please don't hang up." I didn't speak. I just listened. He launched into a confession. The other day, he hadn't wanted to break up with me. He'd gone to Bella's after taking care of me, and she had been livid that he'd canceled on her. She told him it was a massive red flag that I would dare ask him to put her on the back burner. She said I was manipulative, that I was trying to drive them apart. She dug up every nice thing I'd ever done and twisted it. Cooking him food, manipulation. Buying him clothes, controlling. Suggesting he take more time off work. Obviously, I was trying to change him. Bella told Nick that if he didn't end things immediately, he'd be making the biggest mistake of his life. And Nick believed her. He admitted he fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker. He said he'd spent the last 2 days in hell, missing me, realizing how stupid he'd been. He begged me to take him back. He offered to do anything. He even said, "I'll keep our relationship a secret from her if I have to. She doesn't need to know." That was the final straw. Even in his apology, Bella was part of the equation. He thought hiding me was a viable solution. I sat there clutching my phone, anger and disbelief mixing like acid. I had spent days thinking I was the problem, and it turned out to be his childhood friend pulling strings behind the scenes. A normal person might have hung up, blocked him, and moved on. I wish I could say that's what I did, but I was hurt and petty. I wanted him and her to feel a fraction of what I'd felt. So I took a deep breath and said, in the calmest voice I could muster, "Okay, I'll consider taking you back. On one condition." He exhaled sharply, relief flooding his tone. "Anything," he said. "Name it." "I want you to tell Bella that you're done letting her control your relationships," I said. "I want you to tell her you're with me because you want to be, and that she needs to back off. And I want proof. Send me a screenshot." There was silence on the line. "Leah, that's extreme," he finally said. "I don't want to hurt her feelings. She's my best friend." My jaw clenched. "You didn't think twice about hurting me," I replied. "You broke up with me at midnight because she told you to. Either you do this or we're done for good." He argued for several minutes. He said Bella would be furious. He said it would damage their friendship. He said I was putting him in an impossible position. I held firm. "This is the only way," I repeated. Finally, he caved. "Fine," he muttered. "I'll do it." He hung up. 2 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a screenshot of a chat. I scanned it quickly. It was Nick telling Bella that he loved me, that he was tired of her interfering, and that she needed to respect his decisions. She'd responded with a string of shocked emojis and "excuse me." The satisfaction I felt was sharp and immediate. I could picture her face turning red, her carefully cultivated sense of control shattering. I took one last look at the screenshot, then blocked Nick on everything. Petty? Absolutely. Cathartic? Incredibly. I went to sleep with a smile for the first time in days. In the morning, guilt started to creep in. Did I go too far? I scrolled through the comments on the story I'd anonymously posted online. Most people said Nick had dug his own grave. He chose to send the text. Someone pointed out, "You didn't force his fingers." They were right. He had a choice. He chose to try to appease me rather than stand up to Bella on his own terms. Would I have gotten back with him if he'd refused? No, but that was his decision. Besides, lying about getting back together was wrong. I'll own that. But it wasn't as wrong as being discarded like trash because someone else whispered in his ear. I decided not to beat myself up. I hadn't told anyone in my real life about the breakup yet. My friend Harper texted me later that day to invite both Nick and me to her birthday party. The thought of showing up alone and having to explain made my stomach lurch, but I figured I could come up with something. "We grew apart" was always a fallback. 2 days later, my phone rang again. An unknown number. I declined. It rang again. On the third ring, I answered. "Hello?" I said cautiously. "You're a coward," a female voice snapped. "Bella." I sighed and moved to hang up. "If you hang up, it proves you're afraid to face me," she hissed. The childishness of that comment was almost funny. I should have ended the call. Instead, I stayed. Maybe a small part of me wanted to hear her crumble. Bella didn't hold back. She unleashed a torrent of insults. She called me manipulative. She called me a liar. She said Nick was too good for me. Her voice was high and strained, desperate, to hurt me. She ended with the word that made my blood boil: bitch. Something inside me snapped. You want honesty? I said, my voice ice. Here it is. You're not a best friend. You're a backup girlfriend. You sit there playing puppet master because you're terrified Nick will find someone else. You pretend to care about his happiness, but really you just want him to yourself. You're pathetic, Bella. It's sad. For a moment, there was silence. Then I heard a hiccup, a sharp intake of breath. She was crying. I didn't feel bad. She had called me to make me feel small, and now she was the one sniffling. You know what's even funnier? I added, twisting the knife. Nick made a choice the other night. He chose me over you. He sent that message voluntarily. He pushed send all by himself. That must sting. She hung up. I stared at my phone, heart pounding, adrenaline buzzing. I'd never been that blunt with someone in my life. Did it make me a jerk? Perhaps. But I felt oddly liberated. For the first time, I had said exactly what I thought of her. A few days later, it was Harper's birthday. She'd rented out her rooftop for drinks and tapas. Fairy lights twinkled overhead. I arrived early and pulled her aside. Quick heads up, I whispered. Nick and I broke up. It's messy. If he shows up with Bella, I might leave. She blinked, then grinned. Oh my God, please don't leave, she whispered back. If there's drama, I want a front row seat. Only Harper could say that with affection. Fine, I laughed. But I'm not starting anything. An hour into the party, the elevator dinged. Out stepped Nick, looking tense, and Bella, clinging to his arm. They scanned the room, spotted me, and made a beeline. I took a deep breath and kept talking to the guy beside me about podcasts, determined not to give them the satisfaction of attention. That lasted approximately 30 seconds. Nick stepped right up to us. Wow, he said loudly, voice dripping with sarcasm. You move fast. Already cozying up to someone else? Conversation halted. Heads turned. Bella smirked behind him, eyes glinting. Excuse me? I said, raising an eyebrow. Look at you, flirting like we were never together. He continued, making sure everyone could hear. Guess it didn't take long for you to find your next victim. The audacity made me laugh. People whispering around us fell silent. Are you done? I asked. Or are you going to recite a monologue? His cheeks flushed, but he pushed. On. For those who don't know, he announced, Leah is a liar. She pretended to like me while stringing along other guys. She's manipulative. I held up a hand. Stop. I said it quietly, but the authority in my voice surprised. Even me. He stopped. Are you done embarrassing yourself? I asked sweetly, because I recall someone else crawling back to me sobbing, begging for another chance, willing to do anything to get me back. Remind me who that was? Oh, right. You. A murmur went through the crowd. Nick's jaw clenched. I wasn't finished. And you, I said, turning to Bella. I know you want to believe you're the hero in this story, but you're not. You're the person who tries to sabotage every relationship Nick has so you can keep him on a leash. When I got sick and asked him for help, you threw a tantrum because you didn't get to see a movie. When he told you he loved me, you manipulated him into dumping me. That's not loyalty. That's insecurity. You two deserve each other. Bella's mouth opened and closed, her eyes filled with tears. She stepped forward, her face inches from mine. You think you're better than me? She spat. I know I am, I replied, my voice calm. I know my worth. And I don't need to control other people to feel secure. You should try it. She sputtered curses, her voice shaking. Nick grabbed her arm and tried to pull her back, but she shook him off and launched into a tirade of insults. I stood there, arms crossed, refusing to engage. Eventually, Nick managed to drag her away, her voice carrying through the rooftop as they left. The entire party was dead silent for a beat, then erupted into chatter. Harper hugged me. That was epic, she whispered. You okay? Oddly enough, I was. It wasn't the fight I anticipated, but it felt cathartic. I'd said my piece. They'd shown their true colors. In the weeks that followed, I blocked both of them on every platform and focused on myself. I told my friends the PG-13 version of the story. We broke up because of incompatible priorities. Most nodded knowingly. Some gasped when they heard about the Bella factor. One friend said, it sounds like a bad rom-com plot. I laughed because it did. 2 months later, I heard through the grapevine that Nick and Bella were dating. Ironic. Harper texted me with a screenshot of Bella's new Facebook status, in a relationship. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. They had finally admitted what everyone else saw, that their codependency was something more. It felt like the universe saying, see? You were right. Meanwhile, I started seeing someone new. His name is Mateo. He's an architect. He loves dogs and hates mushrooms. We met at a book club. Our first date consisted of eating noodles out of paper boxes on the floor of my apartment because my table was covered in sketches. He doesn't have a possessive best friend dictating his love life. I told him about the Bella saga on our second date. He shook his head and said, that sounds exhausting. I'm so sorry you went through that. We laughed. It felt good to be with someone who viewed me as an equal, not a project. Looking back, do I regret the way I handled things? Maybe a little. I won't pretend telling Nick to confront Bella was altruistic. I wanted revenge. I wanted them to hurt like I did. But I also forced Nick to face something he'd been avoiding for years. He learned, hopefully, that he can't live his life based on someone else's checklist. Bella learned that her actions have consequences, and I learned that my worth isn't defined by whether a man chooses me over another woman. I also learned that sometimes being a little petty is deeply satisfying. So, if you're in a relationship where someone else holds all the strings, ask yourself, are you dating your partner or their puppet master? And if you're the puppet master, maybe consider getting your own life. As for me, I'm happier now. I spend my evenings reading, painting, cooking meals for myself, without worrying whether someone will twist it into a manipulation tactic. I no longer walk on eggshells around a grown man's best friend. I went through heartbreak, anger, guilt, and vindication, and came out the other side with a story that makes people raise their eyebrows at parties. And if a future partner ever tells me his friends get to veto his relationships, I'll smile, politely pay my share of the bill, and leave. Life is too short to compete with a Bella.